Welcome to Three Men and a Mystery. I'm John Lorden.
I'm Mike Morford.
And I'm Gray Hughes.
We're back with episode 7 of season 3, Tattooed Tears, the story of Allyson Watterson. Over the last 2 episodes, we reviewed Ben's criminal history and saw some troubling signs, but we also learned that Allyson's body has been found. What state is it in? What other items have been found? And how are Allyson's friends and family reacting to all this? We'll find out together on today's episode.
Allyson's friend Maddie felt some strong emotions when we asked her about what Allyson meant to her and her thoughts on Allyson's passing.
Sorry. She really was a really beautiful person. And she taught me how to be really brave, and she was always very fun-loving and weird with me. I feel like I probably wouldn't be as brave as I am. I am pretty nervous, and I was antisocial, and I didn't have a lot of friends. And when me and Allyson met, she took me out of my comfort zone, and she introduced me to a bunch of people. We would hang out in groups of people and go to the park and just talk to strangers and make them our friends. Kids, of course, but she just really brought me out of my comfort zone, and we just did like random things that I would have never thought like possible. Like I was over at her house one time, and she lived across the apartment hall from this other young girl that we were in school with at the time, and her dad came over and asked us if we wanted to go to Oaks Park, and we barely knew them, and we went to Oaks Park with them. And that's never something I would have done on my own. She was extremely caring, and I do believe that she really touched the souls of the people that she was friends with and gave, her time. Like, she really changed the person I was for the better, and I'm sure she did that to countless other people. She was really great and fun-loving and sweet and kind and thoughtful. So then you never really think like that sweet, innocent girl would be the one to go like this early in life. Like, I feel like I'm still a kid now, and I'm older than her, so I just never thought that there'd ever be a day where I can't call her to hang out and go to the mall and go to the store and ask her about makeup. She was so good at her makeup, and she always encouraged me to do it mine.
Allyson was discovered when someone in the neighborhood was working her land. She asked to keep her identity private, but did give us permission to share a few clips from a video of Gray walking the property with her and hearing her story.
So I also had my 4-year-old with me. I have an adopted son.
Oh, wow.
And so we found the shoe. We made a big deal about the shoe, and I looked it up. It matched the description. I took a picture on the back of my mower of the shoe, and I called the police.
Oh, wow.
Non-emergency number. Told them I found the shoe, and got off the tractor then and walked maybe 10 feet and saw the head and the ribs cage.
Oh, wow.
The skeleton. It took me, I'm still processing the gruesomeness of it, but I knew already this was hanging over all of North Plains, that something horrible happened. So I didn't stay long. I got out of there, and the emotional processing is going to take a long time.
We're showing a few pics of the location on the YouTube version, but Gray, can you describe the layout of where she was found for the podcast audience?
She was found underneath sort of an umbrella-like tree, but it was at least maybe 100 yards off of a main road out there, or not really a main road, but a side road. And it was once completely covered with blackberry bushes, where it literally was, 5 to 10 feet tall, no way to access that area. And the way it looks now, it looks like there's almost a road there, because they literally, to get to the crime scene and to be able to process it, they had to mow down the entire area and flatten it out, and then people were able to drive vehicles back there.
I spoke to Allison's Aunt Billy about how the family was notified, her feelings around the discovery, and some unanswered questions she has.
It was a Saturday, and my son had actually just gotten married. And it was just a few hours after we had gotten home, my phone pops up our private detective, Michael, who never calls me. We always deal with each other through email or text message. And Mike, right then, I was like, the whole earth came, the whole sky came crashing down on me. So I answered the phone, and just life has just been very broken ever since then. It's really awful. Well, the first thing that came to mind is just like, where? Let's go see her. I just want to see her. I need to tell my sister. We need to go be with her. Like, all of the like what ifs and the hows just really, really fade into the background. I mean, it's more just like, where, what can we see? What's her condition? What, like, where is she? It's just this, you go to this place of empathy and love and, what's next, and all that other stuff just kind of, we've kind of just put behind us for the minute just to allow ourselves to grieve, because trying to do both was becoming very difficult. I can't even tell you how many searches I went on that I was in these areas that I was like, there's no reason any human would be in this area. Like, why are we even right here right now? There's brambles and blackberry bushes, and it's dark. There's no reason. But that's exactly the area that she was found in. And so it's like, how? What trajectory did she, why? Why did she go? Was she alone? Why would she have crawled into this area? Ben had made a comment to my sister and myself when he was in jail. He called us one time. And he told us, after he left her, that he went and slept in blackberry bushes, and he fought blackberry bushes for hours. Now, here she's found in the middle of a blackberry bush kind of field. And the area where he was last seen, the blackberry bushes, they just don't have that same depth. It's just not something that you would struggle with hours. You could, get in and out of them pretty easily. They're more manicured as best you can, We've heard that he left her, that she left him. There is literally not a solid, like, when an event happens, you have what happens from beginning to end. When you have a story, there's all sorts of room for amendments. And that's what we're seeing. So many amended stories. Yeah, it's a very, very frustrating. Just like, can we just have the story, please?
Yeah.
And if the story is innocent, it just changes so many times. Molly told us in the very, very beginning that she walked away from Ben and said, she threw up her arms allegedly and said, I'm just going to go. I just want to die anyway. I'm just going to go die. That's a direct quote from his mom. We've never heard that since. We're not trying to create a crime out of, thin air. That's not what's happening here. We really want to hear what exactly happened with our Allyson. It's only fair that we have that. So, and that's just, they have all those answers. I believe it. I believe they have those answers.
You can certainly hear the frustration, and she raises so many good points about the stories changing. Of course, the Vanished podcast also did two episodes on this case, and Aunt Billy shared some information there as well about the state that Allyson was in when she was found. It was noted that it seems like the decomposition started where she was, and we heard that from the private investigator as well. So it's not like she had died somewhere else, decomposition started at that location, and then her remains were moved to this location. It looks pretty much like this is the same area where she passed away. There is zero tissue left. Primarily, we're talking about skeletonized remains. And with that, of course, we get a big challenge in terms of determining the cause of death. Are we really going to find an answer for that? Stay tuned until the finale, and we'll definitely get you the latest information we can. It was also noted that this was a stone's throw from where she was last seen, very close, as a matter of fact, to Charlie's house where the party was. Most of her clothing was found. It was noted that there was one undershirt missing, and her sweater was inside out. There was also some other items that were found in the nearby area during the search efforts. Gray, can you tell us about those items and where they were found and how they fit into this?
Yes, as you recall earlier, in a previous episode, there was a phone call made at a person named Sally's house. A phone call was made to the grandmother of Ben to come pick them up. Just down the road from there, probably only about, let's see, let me just get the exact number here, maybe 100 yards. Looks like a tenth of a mile down the road, Ben's jacket was over a fence, a barbed wire fence on the side of the road, and that should be on Northwest Pumpkin Ridge Road. Okay, and then just down the road from there, probably another half mile or so, there's a road called Shipley Road. And in the middle of this huge property, the backpack was found in the middle of the field, which is odd because the entire property is also surrounded by a fence, a barbed wire fence. And
is that close to where she was found, the backpack?
No, the backpack is actually quite a ways up Northwest Pumpkin Ridge Road, and let's see, let me just give you a measurement here. It's about little over 1 1/10 of a mile. So from her remains were found over a mile away from there. So it's way up Northwest Pumpkin Ridge Road. But where she was last seen, it's probably only like 9/10 of a mile.
I think there's a little bit of a question for me in terms of the backpack. I'm wondering if was the backpack with her when she passed away, and then did someone take it after the fact and then leave it in that location? Or did they lose it in this wacky adventure of a weekend that we've been going over as we've been looking into this case? But she had some pretty important things in there. In the podcast, they noted that there was personal belongings, her makeup, her identification was found in there. Seems kind of strange to me that a young woman would leave that behind. What do you guys think?
One other thing that was interesting, though, is the backpack, according to Sally, wasn't with her when she was at her house when they were at the house making that phone call. So that means that it was left there. Then they went up there and made the call and then came back down and maybe never picked it up again. It's just really strange how the backpack got there and remained there. And like you said, being such an important, it contained a lot of important stuff for Allyson.
Yeah, I think if that backpack essentially is Allyson's purse, or a lot of girls keep everything with them right in this backpacks and treat it as a purse. They have personal belongings, things they want access to. Seems weird that she would willingly separate from that.
Yeah, I mean, it just makes you wonder about this whole mentality we keep hearing about, them running away from whoever's after them. Or
It makes you wonder if somebody just threw the backpack there later to sort of push the investigation into a different direction. Because why would it be there? I mean, the thing is, Allyson going across there, why would she just leave her backpack there? It makes no sense that she would leave it. And then they're walking south of there. Why didn't you go back and pick it up? Right? So it almost feels like she still had it. She must have, obviously, Sally says that she didn't have the backpack with her when they made that call. So it was either put there, but then why didn't she pick it up on the way back down Northwest Pumpkin Ridge Road?
Well, also working against the mentality of someone chasing them. I mean, you're leaving a trail of breadcrumbs, effectively, something so visible and important to you. Like, it doesn't hold up on either end of the conversation for me when you look at it.
It could be someone as simply wanting to get rid of any trace of Allyson, that she was at a certain location or a certain spot, and they say, well, her body's here. Let me just put this backpack with her body. So when she's found, they'll find her backpack as well. Our conversation with private investigator Michael O'Connell reveals another item that was found, but it hasn't been widely discussed. And once again, brings a familiar name back into the conversation. We'll hear more about that right after this short break.
The murder of Jacqueline Dewallaby is a tragedy that has puzzled and polarised the minds of those who know it. Over the past 6 months, we've extensively investigated this case, trawling through files, trial transcripts, and archives, and have been conducting interviews with the people who lived through it.
It was a sensational, startling fact that a 7-year-old little girl had shown up missing from a suburban home.
Something like that happening would have never crossed our parents' minds.
The notion that a stranger can slip into a child's bedroom in the middle of the night, completely undetected, is surely a notion that every single parent on this earth fears. But what's even more lamentable is knowing that a child killer is roaming the street, and even more chilling, they could be someone you know.
Hosted by Emily G. Thompson and Eileen McFarlane, this is The Shattered Window.
Welcome back, and please keep in mind that our sponsors are helping us raise funds that will go towards investigating this case further, so please show them the same support they're showing us. Private investigator Michael O'Connell told us about another place where an item of Allyson's is found, one of her slippers.
One slipper was found at Charlie's out in front of the driveway. So, to put this in perspective, you go back to the fire station where they use the phone. Ben calls his mom and says, we've been robbed and come pick us up. And he also tells her that Charlie Sinclair had something to do with this robbery, and that Charlie Sinclair drove by there as they were walking to the fire station. And I don't think that's true. It's just what he's telling his mom. So his mom picks him up and says, Charlie wouldn't rob you. Let's go up and I'll show you that Charlie's home, that his car's there. And so they did that. When, as it turned out, Charlie's car wasn't there. I'm not sure where it was, but during that, and then Molly went in and talked to, I don't think she talked to Charlie because he wasn't there at that time, but it was Courtney. And while Allyson waited out in the car, in Molly's car, apparently that's when she lost a slipper. And it was later found there in the driveway near where the car was parked. And I don't know if she was just sticking her feet, out of the car while she was waiting. I don't know.
So Courtney is Charlie's girlfriend. And I just want to put out there, guys, that there is a lot that seems to be circulating around Charlie in this case for me. And I know the private investigator is saying that he's not even there at this point during the weekend. But we know they went to his house initially on Friday. So he was around at some point, and then he decided to leave for a trip of some kind. But the location where she's found, one of her personal items being found in his driveway, the story even about them being held up, some of the information we're hearing is that they were saying that it was Charlie that actually had held them up. There's a lot rotating around Charlie for me. I don't think the private investigator, we'll hear more from him on the next episode about his perspective on that. But I'm personally just kind of troubled at this. It's like an orbit of this story. And for some reason, Charlie keeps finding himself in the center of it. You guys have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, it is interesting that there's so many things going on out there. And I even think that Ben's mother, took them back out there to to prove that he wasn't the one that threatened them. And another thing about the slipper that was just mentioned, I mean, it's just another one of those things, like her slipper falls off, but she doesn't say, or nobody stops to say, hey, hold on a second, let me get my slipper. Because that's the only thing she had on at the time.
Yeah.
So something was moving quickly, almost like things are moving. People were like, let's go. You know, it's really bizarre to me. I mean, would any of you out there, if a shoe fell off as you're getting into a car, just go, okay, and let the car drive away without getting your shoe? I don't think so.
Is it completely dumb of me to even wonder if she's conscious at this point?
Yeah, I mean, who knows, to be honest with you.
That's definitely a possibility, because I think Gray hit the nail right on the head. No one's going to be walking around in what temperature was it again? I mean, it's got to be relatively cold.
Yeah, it's in the 40s.
It's outside. Yeah, it's outside, so no one in their right mind is going to purposely walk around without a shoe on. So that, to me, that says she either left in a hurry and decided, I'm leaving that shoe, there's that slipper there, it's not that important, or perhaps it fell off as she was being moved unconsciously. Aunt Billy is very concerned about one item that they haven't been able to find, an item that many people would consider a lifeline.
Well, there's something that's troubling to me, and I mean, I don't really know if this is shared by law enforcement, or I'm troubled by not being able to find her cell phone, because when her belongings were found, that was a really hard day. But her phone not being in there gave me hope that she had that with her. I just envisioned it in her back pocket, and that she had it, and you know, that she could get a Wi-Fi signal, that there was something of hers that she had. And then when she was found, her cell phone was not with her. So that feels troubling to me.
Yeah. I mean, right off the bat, my first thought is we've gone over Ben's criminal history. We've got some robbery charges. We've heard that there might be some conversation he was having with people about grinching or stealing packages from porches. Thinking of things that would have some type of monetary value that would have been with Allyson, I think her phone is probably number one outside of, cash or cards.
Yeah, this phone, though, was, I think, an older model. I mean, even though it's still worth some money. Because remember, that would have been the phone that Misty got for during the time where her actual phone was broken. She got it... but yeah, it's still worth some money. It also has a feel, too, of a similarity to the backpack. Here we got this backpack completely away from where she was found, and then a cell phone. Everybody out there who watches even 3 seconds of crime knows that a cell phone can ping and so forth. And some people even think they can ping when they're not on. I don't think that that's true, but you turn it off, and then you take the phone and put it somewhere far away and hope that it's not associated. Nobody was ever expecting her to be found. If you see where she was found, it was completely covered with blackberry bushes at the time.
Yeah, and Gray brings up an interesting point. You start thinking about, okay, this cell phone can give off a ping. I've got to distance it. I've got to move it to a different location, whatever. I think most of us that pay attention to true crime might automatically think that. But I don't know if the average person out there might be thinking that. This group of friends, people that might have associated with Allyson, I don't know if they'd automatically be thinking that. And in the heat of the moment, even if they had that knowledge and thought about that, something happening to where they're scrambling, or are they going to think about that in the heat of the moment? And then one other fact, what person Allyson's age, no matter if it's a new phone, an older phone, whatever, what person her age nowadays doesn't have a phone with them at all times? So for that phone to be on, sure, everybody can lose a cell phone. That could happen to any one of us. But short of her losing it, there's not any good explanation as why that phone isn't with her.
So that dovetails nicely into the backpack too. Just like you said a minute ago, nobody would just throw away their purse, for example, right? Yeah. It has all the stuff in there. And then now we have a phone that she would definitely, everybody her age would keep that phone with her. And now she's alone with absolutely nothing. Now, we do remember that the cell phone itself wasn't actually connected to cellular service. It was just a Wi-Fi phone, but maybe the people or a person who took the phone didn't know that.
Right. That's a good point.
Allison's friend, Ariana, is also struggling with the reality of her death and her anger towards Ben.
It's really hard to realize that this is the reality of the situation. Like, you know, she was just messaging me the day before she went missing, and just knowing that, like within a matter of 24 hours, she was gone, who knows where, is just really, really hard. And I have so much resentment built up for Ben. And I'm not really a person to hate that much, but like, I hate Ben. And it makes me so angry that he put himself over her. He waited all that time because he was afraid, because he had warrants. Like, that is somebody's daughter. That's somebody's friend. That is somebody's sister. Like, that is somebody's life that you are leaving out in the woods for 30 fucking hours without reporting it to anybody, without even telling her mom. Like, it makes me angry in a lot of ways, and it really just sends my mind through a loop when I try to understand and see where he's coming from. And for him to change his story so many times, like, it blows my mind. Even though we may not be able to get her back, we can still get answers for what happened, how that happened, how she ended up there, how you lost her, how you lost the most amazing person that's ever been in some of our lives. It's confusing trying to put it all together because none of it really does make sense. It's all just more and more questions. Like, I thought a lot of the questions were going to get answered once we found her and everything, but now we just have so many more questions of, okay, how did she end up there? What happened? And it's been so long that, like, we're not going to get really any answers off of, like, her body and everything. Like, it's really, really shitty, the reality of the situation, I guess.
There are many sides to grief, and Ariana tells us how she's moving forward and holding on to the good memories of Allyson.
At least something that came from this experience is getting a few more close friends that, especially we're close with Allyson and everything. It's kind of almost like a comfort in the chaos, just knowing that, we're all going through this together. We're all, we all have these stories and all have these memories and everything. We don't have to just think about, the case and her not being here anymore, but we can all kind of relate on the happy memories that we have, not just dwelling on the sad reality of now. Allyson was just a really big blessing. And, like, I'm not a religious person, but, like, Allyson blessed my life. When they think Allyson Watterson, I don't want people to think of, missing Allyson Watterson, in loving memory Allyson Watterson. I want them to think, this is somebody that I would have gone along with. This is somebody that I could have related with. This is somebody that, I wish I had memories with and everything. Like, this is somebody that deserved to live the rest of their life to the fullest and everything. Like, I just really want people to understand, like, they missed out by not being able to meet Allyson. It just breaks my heart what happens. Her mom, like, her dad, her brother, like, I can't physically imagine what they're going through. And I just hope that, when, they read comments and go on social media, that it's all, like, I want them to be flooded with love. I don't want them to have to sit there and justify and explain what she might have been doing, all of this stuff. Like, that's their family, and they 100% deserve to feel all of the love and support and positivity and everything that she put into everyone else's lives. And so, yeah, she was a wonderful person, and I really wish that she was still here.
Of course, no one is feeling the effects of Allyson's passing like her mother. Here is Misty to share what she went through and where she is with it now.
He brought her out there, and I feel he was responsible for her. And then he didn't give anybody the opportunity to go look for her because of his own selfish needs. 100% his responsibility. Him and his family. I absolutely hold them 100% responsible for what happened to her. And we may never find out what happened to her. And they never gave us that opportunity. So I really hope that this does something for his life. I hope he, learns from this and will never treat another person like that ever again. I hope this never happens to anybody else or their family ever again.
Yeah.
I know that there will be a judgment day for him and his family. They will have to answer to what they did or what they didn't do, to God someday.
Well, guys, we've got the discovery of her body. We've talked about the available information and the unavailable information. One of the big things is the state that her remains are in and what little information can be taken from that. What do you guys think in terms of the investigation? Where should it head from here? What kind of considerations would you give to it, Gray?
Well, I mean, unfortunately, it took so long to find her that there's not going to be a lot of forensic information at the crime scene to be able to determine the cause of death, and that's what they're struggling with that. I don't know if they've sent off some items to be tested for anything else, but I mean, right now, you just need somebody to tell the truthful story to then start leading to where to go. It's just, this is one of those cases where you have so many people not telling the truth, especially on Ben's family side. Like almost every one of them is trying to kind of keep information out and tell a different type of story. It's really frustrating.
And investigators have an uphill battle trying to determine what really happened. You've got people that just aren't cooperating or sort of roadblocks hindering the investigation. Then you have, as Gray said, the condition of Allyson's remains have really stymied any kind of real investigative techniques to help determine how she ultimately died. And, obviously there are things that can be found in bones, like if there were any stab wounds to her, if she was strangled, sometimes bones will show that, but they're limited on what things they can learn from that. So I hate to say it, but just as her mom just said in what we listened to, we may never know what happened to Allyson.
Well, one thing we can say is the medical examiner is going to come back with something. It's going to be homicide or suicide or undetermined, and that's about it, one of those categories. We're actually going to learn more about that in the season finale next week. Remember, you can find all the information and links you need for any specific episode together all in one place at 3menandamystery.com, and that's with the number 3. If you have any tips to call in on Allyson's case, please contact the Washington County Sheriff's Investigation Department at 593-846-2500. If you need to remain anonymous, please call Crime Stoppers of Oregon at 503-823-HELP. That's 503-823-4357.
If you have any feedback, corrections, or new details, you can send that to us via email at 3men, that's with the number 3, at 3menandamystery.com. Or you can reach out to us on Twitter. Our Twitter handle is at 3menandamystery. You can also find us on Facebook.
3 Men and a Mystery is produced by John Lorden, Mike Morford, and Gray Hughes.
Please be sure to rate us on the podcasting platform that you found us on and help us grow by telling your friends and family about us.
Next week on the season finale, we speak with private investigator Michael O'Connell about his thoughts and findings. Allyson's mother, Misty, gives us the latest status on the case, and the 3 men find a way to honor Allyson's memory. I'm John Lorden.
I'm Mike Morford.
And I'm Gray Hughes.
And we are 3 Men and a Mystery.